Thanks, Mimi. So thanks for that amazing introduction as well. Good morning, everyone. We're going to talk about the career path simulator. It's a very interesting problem, as you'll soon realize. Um, so, uh, oh, yeah. So in today's presentation, we're going to go over three aspects of it. A quick overview, and then we'll dive a bit into what is a career path and what aspects to look at, as well as some tools that can help you actually achieve your goal of simulating this. So let's get started. Now, Vimy already introduced me, so I'll just very quickly go over this. I have more than 15 years of experience, both locally and internationally, in the software engineering field. I've done a whole bunch of roles, be it on the engineering side, on the management side, in the banking sector, in the public sector, in cloud-based software development. So now I've moved on to my own things now, but it's a fairly diverse experience, which is actually very helpful for today's presentation. So now on to why should we even bother about this particular problem? Well, you can look at the graph on the right-hand side here, but before we do that, just a general thing that I think everyone must have it on their minds right now. The job market has become extremely volatile, and economic pressures globally continue to grow. It's especially affected by the rise of AI. Traditional employment models are being disrupted left and right. Things that nobody thought would be automated are being automated today. Things that shouldn't be automated are also being automated, and then they get flip-flopping on that. So it's become very, very volatile. This has been compounded by various factors, such as political volatility on the global stage. What's going on? I don't need to detail it further right now, but this has been going on for a while now. So there's a lot of economic uncertainty. But the end result of that, combined with other factors, is that looking at our local situation, the Mauritian rupee, that's a very good indicator of what is the state of our economy in a certain way. Compared to the USD, for the past 5 years, the Mauritian rupee has weakened by 16.2%. So right now, things have become very expensive, basically, if we are to look at that situation. So we are in uncertain times. We need to be resilient, disciplined, and plan ahead to actually find our way around in today's global economy. So this ability to plan a career has become vitally important now. It is not just a toy problem, it's a genuine requirement for the world today. So what do we need to look at to help solve this problem? Let's start off with the more details about Mauritius specifically. We can talk about the world all day long, but you won't find CNN talking about Mauritius. So let's look at our country specifically here. So the Statistics Mauritius Bureau of the government of Mauritius, the latest report dates back from March of last year. So if we had this presentation in about a month, we would have had the 2026 figures, but I'm going with the latest from last year. So as of last year, there was a slight growth in total employment, with the largest growth being in public institutions, the finance sector, and general commerce, with a noticeable increase in foreign workers as well, so imported workers. But employment in other traditional sectors like manufacturing and export-oriented enterprises, they've decreased visibly, very visibly. But since last year, there were a lot of shifts, as we're all well aware, geopolitically especially. So these statistics will likely have shifted again, but we can take them as indicative of our current situation. So things move, and they can move very fast. But now we want to find a job in this market. But what do we need to find a job? At its root, it's a very simple problem. You need to match the skills, qualifications, and aspirations of job applicants to job requirements. Now, I've illustrated this generally here. I hope you can see the diagram correctly. Let me know if you can't. But basically, like in this case, you can see that the skills, qualification, aspirations of this person, they like to travel a lot. Their programming is a bit weak, and the interpersonal skills are very good. So very likely they spend a lot of time on Instagram, but they're not very good at programming. But then the job requirement here, again, it's a toy example here, so you can just very high level. This one requires a lot of programming skills, good interpersonal skills, requires travel and a lot of resilience. So it's probably a high stress IT job. In this particular case, would these skills match? On the traveling and the interpersonal, that's fine. But the programming aspects, no. So the person will have to look for another job. But if you have a way of matching, of measuring firstly and defining, okay, this is what the person wants versus what's available, then you can match up jobs. But that's just a job. It's not a career. So a career is much more than just getting a job. So your aspirations, interests, and skills at one point in time, they must evolve along with the trends and what's available on the market and what's asked by the market. But even you personally as well will change over time with your career. And that's why you need to define what we call a career path. Now, this is the full definition of it. You can look at it in the recording, but basically, I'll just read it out for for everyone's sake. So a career path is the sequence of jobs or positions through which an individual progresses in their professional life. It represents the various stages and positions that a person may move through as they advance in their career. So it's pretty obvious. It's just the path that you take through your career. But then they can evolve very, very significantly. So in this particular example, that's a typical corporate job. You start at a very lowly associate level. You can become a team lead from there. When you get enough experience, you've proven yourself. A team lead, then you want to manage multiple teams, so you become a manager. Then you've shown that you can do that. A senior manager, you become a director, you take care of multiple different things. Then you can become a chief operating officer. So that's, you must have heard it as a CEO or things like that in the news. So a CEO can maybe eventually become a chief executive officer, so just running the company basically. So you've gone from a very basic job to, the big head person of the company. But this is one line. That line can diverge as well. This is a career in a typical corporate job. If like me, like I've transitioned to my own as an entrepreneur, I do my own things now. So the line changed. At one point, I wanted to do this, but now I jumped a few stages and went straight to CEO of my own company. So you can do that as well. But this just shows that careers change and they shift. They're not always static and easy to look at, especially in today's situation. Now, there are many tools that can help people build, and simulate what would happen in their career. These are obviously very mature and well-developed tools that I'm showing here. You can look at the links. There are many of these, but just to give you a general idea, there are things like the lifetime earnings, the education ROI would be like how much you spent on your studies versus what you receive. Work-life balance. There are systems as to how to gather the skills and interests. So some of them ask questions. They make it very conversational, very casual. And the output can be graphs. The output can be text, as you can see here. And it shows a lot of different attributes. So it's a very diverse field when it comes to suggesting these. Obviously, it sells jobs. So, there's a lot of money that goes into these things. So it's definitely valuable already. But now, just to kind of condense this down, because it's a lot. So very basic attributes that you should consider when building a simulator like this, based on what we've seen at least, what's already successful out there. So basic things, what we'd expect, the salary range, the market demand of the job, the growth opportunities, how you can get promoted. Yes?
Really?
Yes. Did someone have a question? Okay, I'll just continue for now. Okay. So, the career growth opportunities, what other positions you can have, what jobs can be related to this.
Donc le 2, c'est-à-dire
Uh,
il y aura mentionné
uh,
au jacuzzi et
I think
nous
someone needs to mute their mic,
avons
please.
madame, oui, on a pu parler.
Yes. Okay, thanks. All right. So, yeah, what other jobs you can get based on the current job you have and your experience. As it grows, your opportunities open up as well. That's also an attribute that you need to consider. Work-life balance might be a nice to have as well. Like, okay, a doctor's job versus a surveyor's job is very different. So what qualifies as work life for the person also varies. And of course, the job requirements, things like what skills and interests and academic qualifications, experience, etc., that go into obtaining and growing that career. So these are the typical attributes that we've seen in these existing career simulators, career path simulators, but there's more, because this is your simulator. It's not for seasoned professionals. It's for students, especially. It's for what you think is important in your career path. What would you want to see? So make sure to make this tool your own. Don't just look at what's out there and, okay, that's it, problem solved. That's just copying. That's not solving a problem. And if somebody else has solved the problem a certain way, you can solve it your own based on your perspective. So how can you innovate in a space like this where it seems like there's not much to do, but there is actually a lot? So let's just go over a couple of the scenarios here. So to interactively simulate a career path, how can you do that? Would you do what they did before there, ask questions? Would you show like a game, a person going to a building and talking to someone and interacting and behaving a certain way, or doing certain things in their career to see what happens next? That's also a possibility. You could have simple text-based prompts. You could have a lot of things here to make it interactive and interesting. Um, and then, of course, like what kinds of career choices you can make, what consequences can you see? How do you present a system like this, to make it interesting, to make it deeper than what's out there, or make something new and different that's useful, obviously. Obviously, depending on how you build your simulator, you could also identify and suggest jobs that do not currently exist. That's a very, very interesting problem if you can solve it. And I'd love to see what you come up with there. How to make it more visually interesting. So graphs and figures, as we've seen before, they are great for seasoned professionals. But is that all that you would want in a tool that's built for you? So that's something you can consider and create something new out of it. And obviously, what I've been talking about from the beginning is how can the simulator work for students at your level? Seasoned professionals want very different things from those starting out. So tools that you'll see online are already built for people who have years and years of experience typically. It may not answer the questions you have. So that's something very important to consider when building your simulator. Don't just copy, create. Now, we'll go over some tools that can help you there. These are suggestions, again, not they don't limit yourself to just this, but simulation systems it's a very large field. So you can build all kinds of things with it at all kinds of levels. We've seen some very, very open-ended problems. So you have a lot of options here, a lot of opportunity to do your own thing. And I really don't want to restrict what your imagination and your skills can do. So I will talk about this very generally, but we can go over more details through your questions. So the simulation systems out there, you have advanced economic models, you have AI tools, you have web applications you can build. And because it's a simulation that's meant to be interactive, game engines are actually built specifically for that. So it's not just a game, it can be a general simulator as well. So we'll go over a few of them, but just a high-level overview. So AnyLogic is one of the industry standard tools for advanced simulations. It's used in many, many fields. AI tools, I've just listed a few here, but you have PyTorch, you can train your own model, Weka, you have your own workbench, you can build models and things like that. Web tools, you have VidPress and React. So these are simple and a bit more advanced tools to build your website if you want. Game engines, obviously, there's so many of them, but I'll just go over Godot and Unreal very quick. These are the industry standard, basically. But these are just to give you an idea of what you can research based on how you want to solve your things, but choose what works best for you. It may be necessary to combine different things. For example, your backend simulation could be using an AI model. You present it through a web interface. And you have a local, if somebody wants to run a game on their phone, for example, to kind of show, oh, hey, this is the career and that kind of thing, you could use a game engine for that to make it more interactive. So just as a quick overview of the tools, so AnyLogic, it's a general purpose advanced simulation software. So it can do just about any simulation you want to throw at it. I've shown a few examples here of economic simulations, social simulations. But with this, governments use it for modeling traffic, for modeling entire economies over time, things like that. But it comes to the free version as well. So if you want to kind of run through, okay, so in Mauritius today, you have a population where, just as an example, so if you have 10% doing import export, 10% doing general commerce, and then if suddenly 50% becomes doctors, what's going to happen? You could define and play around with those parameters in any logic and show what happens there, and how it would affect the different populations and things like that. What I'm saying here may sound very, very complex, but any logic actually makes it quite interesting. Like it's accessible if you put in the effort to learn it, and it has a free version as well. So yeah, but this learning curve can become steep if you want to make a very complex simulation. Okay, so this is just something to consider. You probably never heard of this tool before, but look it up. It's pretty interesting. There are others as well. This is one I've used in the past, and I found it very interesting. Now, AI tools. Again, this is huge. So there are many, many things you can do, but you have to be very careful about a few things. I'll just go over there, go over that. So you need the right data set to leverage AI tools so you can predict career paths. So I've already mentioned one of the data sets earlier, the statistics of Mauritius. But if you want to build your own AI models to actually predict things, there are tools out there. It's this field is immense. There's so many things you can use. I've just mentioned two which are quite popular. So PyTorch is a optimized machine learning library, so you can use Python and your CPU and GPU to feed the data, use different machine learning techniques, and produce your own model. Weka is a tool that helps with this type of training as well. It has an online and offline tool, so I've mentioned both URLs here. But one thing I'd want to warn everyone about if you're going to use this is AI tools, the ones that are very popular right now, ChatGPT and all these other LLMs, they have a tendency to be unreliable by hallucinating the data. So you tell them to do one thing, even if you give them the data, you give them the prompt, however you do it, they can make up things. And here we're talking about a career simulator. You don't want someone to just make up things when you're making a simulator, at this level especially. So make sure that you have your foundation right. Don't just put in prompts and then think, oh, I got the application fast, that's it. That will give you an application that maybe 100 other people have written that doesn't suit your needs. So you need to know your basics first so you can identify and avoid the pitfalls of those AI tools. And also, in some cases, you don't even need the AI tool depending on what you want to build, because often solutions built just through AI without any knowledge of basic software engineering and things like that, they're very inefficient and they waste a lot of power, and they don't solve the problem the way you want. So be very careful if you're using these tools. Don't use it as a crutch. Use it as a means to slingshot yourself forward. Okay, that's a warning about these things. So, but this is again very open-ended. There's many things you can do, but leverage it correctly. Now, web libraries, again, I'm not being very prescriptive about what you can do. These are huge things you can do so many things with, but just giving you a few pointers. So your interface can be many things. And obviously web interfaces are pretty much the standard these days. With them, you can build interfaces for web, for mobile, and things like that. One which I found pretty interesting, especially for the type of, this conversational type of problem solving here, I found Vitpress to be very nice. So you can extend it with Vue.js. So with this, the site looks good. You can quickly build the website as well, and then you can define workflows inside it. So you can tell it, okay, fine. So you want to do carrier A, what's the solution, how it looks, etc. Or if you want to simply build a general documentation site and things like that to help you with your project, it's pretty useful too. Then obviously React is a very popular web application library already out there. It has a lot of tools and things that can help you with building. If you're doing a website, this can help you with that. But obviously, we're talking about web libraries here. There are hundreds, thousands of them. So choose what works for you. And finally, one of my favorites, game engines. Now, games themselves are interactive simulations, which is exactly the type of problem we're trying to solve here. An interactive career path simulator. So they have a lot of systems, a lot of tools, a lot of pre-built components that can help you solve this problem, including things like simulation, AI, and things like that, all that built in. So interestingly, we call them games, but they are actually interactive simulations. So these things have, there are many engines out there, and they're well suited to solving this problem if you put in the effort to learn them. Obviously, if you keep making games instead of solving the problem, that's will be another problem itself. But let's focus on solving this particular problem. So if you want to set up an interactive flow, for example, the user goes up to someone, talks to them, and you make a choice as to, okay, in my career, I want to do X, Y, and Z. What happens next? And see the consequences. Some of you might have played games like this that do this. So as you know, this is actually things that are actually built into engines now. There are many, many engines out there. There's one called Godot. It's free, general purpose. You can do 2D, 3D, and it's actually relatively simple to use. If they have Unreal Engine, which is free with royalties. So if you don't make money from it, it's it's free. And but this is actually one of the premier 3D engines in the world. So it's used from everything from simulations for, as you're seeing in the picture here, like this is a driving game, but you can actually use it for training. It's used in training actually for a lot of things, for factory simulations, for movies, for things like that. So this does just about anything you want, but it's much heavier. But your simulator will look really good if you use this. But be prepared with a very powerful system to use it. Another one which I mentioned here called Inkle Writer is actually an interactive text-based branching narrative writer. So, okay, lots of words. It's just basically you want to make choices and present them in an interactive format. It's a lower screenshot here, but basically you can make choices and see what happens next. But it's defined by a text, so it's relatively easy to work with. You could use that to prototype your idea, the flows and things like that you want, and then put them into other systems, for example, your web interface, or maybe if you're doing a nice visual thing in Godot or Unreal, you could prototype on there and then put it there. So just kind of link all the systems together to make something interesting and different that suits your needs specifically. Yeah. So this is kind of an overview of everything. Yeah. So I just went over this a bit quickly, I know, but I wanted to leave more time for questions, especially because this is a very open-ended problem space. So thanks for listening to me. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Yashil. That was really impressive. I've seen, like, from the topic, I thought it was going to be like a very simple tools. I see that you have worked hard and come up with quite a number of tools, which is really interesting. I think students can innovate around it. And also the games makes it more fun, like to understand what are the possible career path. So I hope the teachers have questions for you. Anybody having a question for Yashil? So if we have any questions, Yashil, we are going to contact you and then send you a message and maybe you can answer them. So we are going to put the recordings online and we want to have your permission for this. I think there's very important information and we cannot miss out, especially the questions that the students have to ask themselves before they go on creating a simulation software. And I think it is now with AI, the opportunities and the libraries are also a good way to explore innovative ideas and come up with nice solutions that can be useful for the students to determine what they want to do in the future. And they can move directly from employee to director, as you rightly said. So thank you again. Thank you again for your support, and I'm really impressed by the presentation. And
Thank you.
we'll keep in touch for if there is any question or